It's the OBZ, the golf master. Drop a dirty birdie and laugh at your disaster. As I drain another putt on the green, I leave a blood-stained Middle East terrain. Just chill. Listen to the Muslim squeal, keeping it real. As another fundraising meal, still. Terrorists try to kill the will, but get crushed pure and simple. Do you hear me? I seal. I'll wipe you off the face of the earth, because I'm a bad. I bomb cave like clockwork.
We are joined now by the director, Duran Lyons. Duran, how long did it take you to put this video together?
I approximate about 500 hours and used about 285 clips for the Obama lyrics section and about 400 clips overall. So it was very tedious, but enjoyable.
So you spent a lot of time researching on YouTube, trying to find different pieces and phrases to put this piece together. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's right. A lot of YouTube, a lot of C-SPAN, and a lot of reading through transcripts.
And why did you decide to make it? What was the impetus behind this?
I did a project that was similar to this entitled 99 Problems, whereby I made Obama rap Jay-Z's classic hip-hop track. And so I was talking with some close associates that I really enjoyed discussing remix with, Vrudin Jakov and Stephen Mears, and they both said, well, why don't we revisit the idea of critiquing Obama and our foreign policy through hip-hop? So that really was the main impetus behind making this type of a project. I think anybody can really speak to maybe a webcam and critique our policies, but there needs to be a form that is more interesting to folks. And so using kind of the hip-hop form, I think, is really, it's a way to engage people, maybe in a funny way, but also in a way that tries to get them to think more deeply about what's going on around the world.
Yeah, I totally agree. What you've taken is, in this case, a Dr. Dre tune and put some remix stuff on it and really go to the heart of what Obama is doing. He's playing golf while he's killing people with drones. And of course, others in the mainstream media celebrate this, especially when he's killing people with drones, because American troops are not getting their hands dirty in this type of work that they do. But, you know, we've heard reports from drone pilots and stuff coming down with PTSD after the fact, after they realize they're killing kids, they're killing families, wedding parties. It really is a shame that this is the way that we're now, you know, using our troops is to kill people from afar. But pretty soon we're going to be replacing those people with killer robots that are autonomous.
Right. I mean, is that the legacy that we want to leave behind? You know, I just was really disturbed by the fact that after Foley was beheaded, Obama made a statement. It was very brief. And then he goes out and plays golf. And so I was talking with Mears, and I said, we really need to go after this, that as the war on terror continues to ramp up, our president is out there just relaxing and yakking it up with friends and playing 18 holes. I just think that's inappropriate. I remember when Bush was playing a lot of golf, the optics for that weren't good either, right? So he quit playing golf, and Obama's just continued to do this. So we really wanted to, to borrow from George Carlin, we wanted to bash this. Carlin said, I don't play with these people anymore. I just make fun of them. And that's a good way to drive discourse, I think.
I totally agree. And since I remember you sent me the email with your link, I saw it. It had about maybe 1,500 views on it at the time. We stuck it up on INFOWARS, and it really created a firestorm here. Even with all the other news going on, I felt it was a little bit overshadowed, which is why I wanted to have you back on to kind of plug it again, see if we could get this thing up to 50 or 100,000 views and get this out there in the public discourse. Maybe somebody like Jay-Z or Dr. Dre will see it and go, wow, you guys did a good job. This is what I was thinking now. And you guys really took it and really took the ball and rolled with it. So, I mean, what do you have to say to people out there that are thinking about doing stuff like this? I mean, obviously it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of commitment, but you can find people out there to collaborate with. And there's a lot of people doing the research on the internet that you could just, find. So what are your tips to give people out there to get started on something like this?
Well, first and foremost, like you just said, collaboration is really good. I have some trusted friends that I really like talking about politics with, and we really go rigorously into the issues. What piece of popular culture can we take and try to insert a new message into it? So, but also I want to emphasize that when you start making this type of work, you're really going to have a lot of fun. I mean, I'll be directly honest. When I was working with Megyn Kelly's footage towards the end there, when she goes into this long vibrato, it's really R&B, and she's her mouth is quivering around. And I was laughing so hard as I made that a tear dropped out of my eye. It was so fun. So I want to emphasize to people that political remix video can be a very enjoyable, yet challenging, of course, but enjoyable process whereby you get to talk back to the people in powerful positions.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so, what's your next project? What are you going to work on after this?
Well, I don't like to leak that kind of stuff out too much, but I can guarantee you that I'm going to stay on people in positions of power and leadership. Might start to look at some new people that are voicing that they're going to have a candidacy in 2016, and then again probably stay with the hip hop genre. I think there's lots of different ways to make remix, so I would encourage people that like to work with or that enjoy film to make narratives too. They're very effective.
Yeah, I remember when the Obama phone lady video came out, people were making remixes of that and putting them up. We made our own remix here, and then we ended up having her here, and it was a very interesting time. I want to end on this one last article that just came out today. School teaches kids the government gives us rights, and it's by Paul Joseph Watson. And let me tell you, Duran, if you followed this little playbook here that they give you on being a good citizen, you wouldn't have come out with this. You wouldn't have critiqued the government in such a way. So do you want to apologize right now for not being a good citizen?
I'm very sorry for thinking for myself and having an opinion and for trying to put out a pro-peace message. I apologize.
Yeah, there you go. Because if you're not lockstep with what the government does, then you're not being a good citizen, as they say. Duran,
Right.
where can people find your work? And, you know, I guess tell us where, hey, just plug your stuff. Where can we find all your work at?
Well, sure. Thank you. You can find my work at Deer on Lions on YouTube. You could follow me on Twitter at LionSpotter, LYONSPOTTER. And that's generally where I work now. I pretty much produce political remix videos. I used to make a lot of fine artworks, but I've migrated into just doing the remix.
Well, I tell you, you do have a talent for this. I can't wait to see the next one. And be sure you send it to us when it comes out, and we'll be sure to put it out there for the people to see. And you really did hit the zeitgeist. We just had Freeway Rick Ross here, and he talked about how we need in hip-hop to come together and start doing these political things and really educating the kids on the drugs, on the drug war. And then you came out with this just a few weeks earlier, and it really hit the zeitgeist, though, of what we were talking about at the time. So I was really, really honored that we could put it out for you and hopefully make a big impact.
Yes, thank you so much. And yeah, I agree. It was very serendipitous and things coalescing together, and just a great way to get, an alternative message out.
All right, Duran, well, you keep the club swinging, and we'll keep it here over at InfoWars Nightly News. And right now we go back to the studio with David Knight.
Thanks, Rob. Now, stay with us. Right after the break, we're going to talk about some health issues. Does Obama think it's not possible for Ebola to come back? It looks like he's expecting it to. Stay with us. A new executive order is going to shed some light on what he thinks.
Introducing the first proprietary oxygen-based intestinal cleanser, OxyPowder, backed by FDA-approved phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. All the toxins from the air, the food, the water, ultimately ends up in the gut or affects the gut. Take your health into your own hands and start cleansing your body today with OxyPowder. Secure your OxyPowder today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.
Now, we've heard a lot about Obama's executive orders. Of course, he's going to open the border by executive order. He's going to close power stations by executive order. And now he's granted immunity from Ebola by executive order. But of course, it's not really giving people immunity physically. It's giving his corporations who are going to help him immunity from being sued if they bring Ebola back to the United States and give it to us. That's the executive order he signed last Thursday. Obama indemnifies government contractors from damages arising from importing Ebola into the United States. It indemnifies them from lawsuits that could be brought up if they import Ebola into the United States. This is, of course, a story from CNS News. They say this authority, and this is quoting from the executive order, may be exercised solely for the purpose of holding harmless and indemnifying contractors with respect to claims, losses, or damage arising out of or resulting from exposure in the course of performance or the contracts to Ebola. Now, they explain this by saying if Company A employee contracts Ebola while working in West Africa, brings the disease back to the United States, is not quarantined, and ends up infecting members of the general public, that company is protected from any damages arising from lawsuits by the victims. There you go. So it's the corporations that we have to be concerned about. It's the corporations that we need to open the borders for. And of course, we needed to take protective clothing from medical workers and hospitals, doctors and nurses here in the United States because we didn't want to create a general panic about a possible Ebola outbreak so that people would take precautions, have quarantines. No, we wanted to, that would impact business. We don't want to see that happening. Now, of course, if Obama's pronouncements would work, that would have worked back in September when he said there was no chance it was going to get out in the wild, just a few days before we discovered that we had a patient in Texas. But at the same time that happened, of course, they were quietly purchasing about 1,600 hazmat suits. And we see over the weekend, a doctor brought in on Saturday who is in the last stages of Ebola, brought into the special facility in Nebraska, yet nevertheless, he died. He also, and this is interesting because he got both a blood plasma transfusion as well as ZMapp. None of that helped him. In the final stages, there is nothing really that's going to help you. It's your immune system in the beginning that is really the determining factor, as well as keeping people hydrated with fluids. And this just underscores the importance of keeping this out of the country. But of course, that's what they're not going to do. They're not going to help you with any immunity. It's only your immune system because they're going to open the borders and even bring people in the last stages of the disease. But of course, it's even worse. Once they have a pandemic get started, we will probably become the test subjects for these corporate pharmaceuticals. They're talking now about how health officials in the U.S. are calling for testing that will require some patients to just get a placebo instead of even the experimental treatment. And of course, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases says, many of these drugs, I assure you of this, several will turn out to be toxic and not effective. And of course, none of this would be a part of the globalist agenda for population control, would it? Sterilizing people, culling the population. Recent events in India last week shed a lot of light on this, and it continues today. After the deaths of 13 women last week who underwent sterilization operations, we now learn that the drug, the antibiotic that they were giving them post-operation, had rat poisoning in it. It turns out that this doctor who was doing these abortions did abortions in just a few hours on 83 women. And he said he was being made a scapegoat for a controversial family planning scheme. You notice that he says it's a controversial family planning scheme. As they point out, forced sterilization operations is what passes for family planning in India. Irrevocable sterilization. They say it's one of the most popular methods of family planning in India. Many state governments organize these massive camps where mainly poor rural women can undergo the usually straightforward procedure. Usually straightforward. He did 83 of these in just a few hours. Human Rights Watch has said that health workers in India are coercing women into getting sterilized because they are under pressure to meet informal targets. Informal targets. Listen, the only thing that's informal about that, they know that they have targets that they need to reach. That's agreed upon. The reason they call it informal is because they're not going to put it in writing. And understand that it's the same attitude that our government has as our corporations, because it's the same corporations that are trying to exploit people in both the United States as well as in India that are behind this globalist population reduction scheme that involves mass culling of the people who are alive and massive sterilization and abortions. That's what's behind all of this. Well, stay with us right after the break. We're going to talk about